Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching again. We've had a phenomenal series talking about Wired and the moments that we've seen God wired in our world, in ourselves, and in our friendships. I hope you had a good conversation last Sunday about the way that students, their spheres of influence have elements of God in them and what we can do to better emphasize that and to connect students into those systems the best way that we can. It was a really great series, so we'll keep kind of tagging back to it to say, where have you seen God wired? But this week, we are diving into a completely new series called Power Play. And we'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to let you know that this Sunday we've got our longer small group leader meeting. I want to take some time to equip you and to give you some training and some ideas of stuff that I've learned over the years and stuff that you probably already know, but just a refresher course. I want to run some things by you just about student ministry and some of the plans we've got coming down the pipeline, and just a chance to sit together to brainstorm some ideas and for me to just spend a little bit more time with you guys. And I just value that time and want to make sure we take time to do that. So this Sunday at 4:15, we will have that longer small group leader meeting just where we can gather together and talk through some of the different things about student ministry. I will have a snack for everybody or something as you walk in, so just a little heads up to be on the lookout for that. So try to be there on time so you can get that little perk as well. But I will see you at 4:15 on Sunday night. So this week, like I said, we're starting a new series called Power Play. And it's talking about moments where we feel completely powerless. Now, have you ever had a moment where you felt completely powerless? Socially, emotionally, and the way that you live your life. One of those moments where you found yourself wishing you could do something to change it, but you absolutely had no power in any way to change the situation. Or maybe you've just had one of those weeks where everything in the world comes crashing in at once. For our students, it could be they have practice every night. They have 2 huge games on that weekend. It's their brother or sister's birthday. It's your best friend has invited you to the lake house. You have 4 tests and you have done 0 studying for them. And to top it all off, their history teachers decided it was time for a 12-page paper. Now students just wish that they could change it and spread all that stuff out over a month, but you just can't. Students are powerless in those situations. We have, as adults, very similar situations where we feel powerless. You're experiencing firsthand just how frustrating it is to be powerless in those situations. But I think there's an even worse kind of powerlessness, the kind where we experience in relationships. When someone has done something to you or said something about you and you can't do anything about it, that someone else made a decision for you and it felt like you had no control. And when that happens, your emotions come into play. You feel frustrated, you feel a sense of injustice, you feel violated. And that's what makes those moments the most frustrating. When someone else has the power, not only over what you do, but how you feel. And when someone relationally powers up against you, regardless of what they did, how big or how small it might have been, it still makes you feel small. And no one likes feeling that way. So what do we do in those situations? Students run up to that all the time. Most of us respond in those situations with relationships in one of 2 ways. We either get mad or we get sad. For the people that get mad, there's a problem with our mad reaction. We're usually the ones to get hurt again. We get in trouble, we get grounded, we lose friendships, we break relationships because of the destruction we run into with those. And for the people that get sad, this reaction is just as strange or just as unhealthy too. We feel unhappy, we know it, and we'll make ourselves even more unhappy for an even longer period of time. It just doesn't make sense, but we do it. But there's an even worse problem. When we feel mad or when we feel sad, it's usually when we give ourselves an excuse to do something bad. For some reason, when we felt hurt by someone, that's the time we feel like we have a pass to do something stupid. And if you've ever done that, you know that bad creates more mad and sad. And it's this cycle that gets worse and worse over time. So what do we do when we find ourselves feeling powerless in a relationship? Now, what if I told you that there was a way to shift the power back to you without you responding in a way that would lead to something bad? What's interesting is that the Bible actually talks a lot about this scenario and teaches us that that we all have more power than we think we do. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to a group of Christians living in Rome. Now, some background of the situation is you need to know it wasn't easy to be a Christian in Rome. They were often beaten or killed or tortured for the entertainment of the Roman people in the Colosseum, and there was nothing they could do about it. It was like Christians walked around with a target on their back. Talk about having no power and feeling powerless. I mean, that's a real situation. Now, Paul writes, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone." And that's from Romans chapter 12, verse 17. That's what Paul writes to the Roman Christians. In other words, don't use someone else's power play as an excuse to do something bad right back to them, regardless of how you feel. And Paul continues. He says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." Now, this is more powerful than you can imagine. He says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you. Now, I love this. Paul knew that in the middle of someone feeling powerless, there's still something that we can control. We have the power to decide how we will react and how we will respond in those situations. Choosing to control our response and choosing to live at peace sounds nice, and it's this great cherry on top, but it isn't always easy, is it? I mean, maybe you're thinking, yeah, but you don't know my coach, or yeah, you don't know my boss, or you don't know my parents did, and I get it. This stuff can be really hard, but think about who Paul is talking to. We're not talking about people with small problems. They were being beaten for fun, but Paul didn't begin to talk about what other people said or did. He began with what we can do. See, Paul knew no matter what the Romans did, no matter what they took, they didn't take away the Christians' power to choose their own behavior. Don't give someone else the power that was never meant to be theirs. Hold on to your power of your behavior. Only you can choose to give that away or not, and that's something that you have the power over. But we have a sense of justice that needs to be served in these moments as well, and that's okay. But listen to what Paul goes on to say. He says, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, 'It's mine to avenge. I will repay,' says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by the evil, but overcome evil with good." And that's Romans 12:19. Now, I love this word overcome. I love it because it's a powerful word. Peace is your most powerful play because peace robs them of their power. And when it comes to your own sense of justice, Paul reminds us that God isn't absent from these situations. God's actually very, very close, and he's paying very close attention, and God directly answers that objection. He says, "I'll take care of it. When you get hurt, let your first response be to pray for peace." It's hard to do because you will want to respond, and the chances are peace won't be your first inclination. So make the decision now, when you find yourself the victim of a power play, to pray for peace. When you pray for peace, you'll eventually begin to feel peace, which makes it easier to show peace. Now, as you head out on Sunday, I want you and our students to know that there's nothing wrong with feeling mad or sad when someone uses their power against you. Students are dealing with major situations, and that's going to impact the way that we look at life sometimes. But here's the thing. Don't let mad and sad be an excuse for bad. Paul reminds us that we always have a power play we can make. We always have the power to choose peace over pain. Now, this topic is going to stir up some different emotions for our students. It's going to play old tapes where we've been wronged by our friends. So walk that journey delicately with our students. This might open up the opportunity for you to have some one-on-one conversations with your students outside of small group time. So I challenge you to run into those and run into the messy situations, but bring that message of peace and bring the message that God says of grace and of redemption at the end of a trial like that. I think this is going to be a great series to talk about the power that we have as students and adults in our relationships. That's only ours to have, and we give that away so often sometimes, but hold on to that power that God gives us in our relationships. So this week, we'll see you at 4:15 in the glass classroom out in the lobby. Got some great stuff to share with you. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Know that I appreciate everything that you do. Y'all are amazing. I'll see you Sunday. Bye, guys.